Good night, Kronky Poo.
Good night, Miss Birdie Poo.
This isn't working. That's the phrase I kept saying when watching the sequel spin-off to the semi-successful 2000s Emperor's New Groove. Kronk's New Groove is a movie where I kept repeating the same thing. This isn't working.
What am I hearing? You can't do that. Stop it! Stop it!
This isn't working.
All I ever wanted was a thumbs up from Poppy.
Not working.
Close.
Oh, that. I sold my clothes to buy more of Yzma's youth potion.
Still not working.
Yo, crowd, let's get loud!
Hey Disney, it's not working. But to look at what Disney did so wrong with Kronk's New Groove, we first have to look at what Disney did right with Emperor's New Groove. Emperor's New Groove was originally intended to be a big musical called Kingdom of the Sun, and while I think this movie would have greatly improved from this, I'm not here to discuss that. Emperor's New Groove is inherently a kid's film.
Theme song guy.
Oh yeah! He's the sovereign lord of the nation.
It has slapstick humor and isn't very serious throughout. It sometimes has emotional moments to ground the story and keep the humor funny, but for the most part, this is a movie made for kids. Even with that childish humor, we aren't bombarded with low-hanging fruit jokes. For the most part, every bit they put into this movie works. So the plot of Emperor's New Groove, for those who haven't seen it, is this. Kuzco is the leader of an old Latin American kingdom. One of his top advisors named Yzma starts to do his job without him knowing, which causes Kuzco to fire her. Yzma gets mad and wants to kill Kuzco to take the power. Kuzco is not a very good person himself, being incredibly selfish, rude, and egotistical. He wants to move this humble farmer named Pacha out of his home for a summer resort that he wants to build. Kronk and Yzma turn Kuzco into a llama, and Kuzco gets stuck in the back of Pacha's cart. Kuzco and Pacha now must get Kuzco back to the kingdom. Kuzco tries to stab Pacha's back, but ultimately fails. Kronk tells Yzma that Kuzco isn't dead, so they start searching for him. Pacha and Kuzco are almost killed, but find a vial that turns Kuzco back into a person, and Kuzco doesn't demolish Pacha's house. This is essentially the first movie. I think I named Kronk once or twice in that entire summary, which makes sense because he's a side character who's only there for comic relief while the rest of the characters are there for the emotion and to drive the plot forwards, while sometimes having funny moments. Kronk is nothing more than a one-dimensional character that is there for two things, being a good counterpart to Yzma and comic relief. So Emperor's New Groove benefits from Kronk because he's there to make you laugh and not to take this movie too seriously. They limit Kronk's screen time because if he, happened to be the main character, he would derail the entire movie and make it a pile of nothingness. Emperor's New Groove also grounds itself in the emotion of Pacha and Kuzco overcoming their differences to save each other as Kuzco learns that what he is intending to do to Pacha's house is wrong. Kuzco is the only character with an arc, and the plot is developed around overthrowing an entire government for ultimate power. The jokes throughout this movie, although abundant, work because they are a subversion to the story as a whole, but also the norms in animation. Emperor's New Groove thrives off the fact that characters like Kronk and Pacha's kids are minor characters that are really only there for a laugh. Now, why did Disney make a spin-off sequel to this with Kronk as the lead? No idea. Kronk is not a character that was built up with a flaw. The man cares for others as apparent with the fact that he saves Kuzco's life. He loves to cook because he cooks for Yzma and at the diner when they need a fill-in. Kronk is not a character needing of an entire movie. Honestly, with its under 90-minute runtime, it barely is a movie. This movie is almost like if Disney made a Frozen spin-off with Olaf, but make it an entire movie. Olaf cares for others. He's comedic relief, and he loves summer. Olaf and Kronk are almost the exact same thing now that I think about it. Kronk's New Groove has a plot derived around the fact that Kronk wants a big thumbs up from Poppy. Let's just let that settle in for a bit. The first movie is derived from overthrowing a leader for power and to take away someone's home. The second movie revolves around wanting validation in the form of a thumbs up. So Kronk's New Groove starts with Kronk being afraid because his father is coming to town. He never got a thumbs up from Poppy and always wanted that validation. He told Poppy he lived in a big house on a hill with a family and now has to quickly try to solve this. He tells the cook lady about his attempts to fulfill these voids he never did fill before, and the movie is split into two major stories. First half starts with Kronk teaming up with Yzma to sell a youth potion to the elderly he works for, and he is so nice to. Yzma is poor and lives in the slums, as everyone in the kingdom knows her and hates her. She lures Kronk into her place where she tells him about her plan to sell this youth potion to the elderly that Kronk works for. Yzma needs Kronk because everyone loves and trusts him, so he is the face of the company. The elderly actually believe the potion works, and they spend all their money and become homeless. Kronk finally buys a big house on the hill to try and get the appreciation from his father he always wanted. When Kronk realizes the elderly are homeless, he donates the house because he comes to the realization that the potion is just sewage and doesn't work, so he feels bad stealing these people's money. The second part is Kronk is a camp leader who leads the kids in competition in a squeaker fest or whatever it's called. Kronk's competitor is a lady who he apparently is madly in love with. He teaches Pacha's kids and others how to be good campmates and compete in meaningless events where they end with a cheer-off. Kronk and the competitor lady are at odds and hate each other, but make treats together for the kids to cheer them up because Kronk and the annoying lady were taking the competition too seriously. They fall in love and do this cheer thingy. Pacha's son messes it up, and the annoying lady hates Kronk for this and never wants to talk to him again. Come back to present time, Kronk asks Pacha to help by faking that Pacha's house and Pacha's family are both Kronk's. Pacha and his family interacted with Kronk like a grand total of 3 times in Emperor's New Groove, and were not friends. Now they're like best friends, and Pacha would even become transgender for Kronk to get the thumbs up. The end of the movie has Kronk telling his father with his 3 wives at the time that none of them are. Kronk then decides to come clean to his father after the fondue explodes over the entire restaurant. The emotional core was Kronk saying he's a failure and all he wanted was a thumbs up from his father. The end tries to be this super happy ending that makes you cry, but comes off as flat because he was talking to these kids and they're like, but Kronk, you have all of these things and you have us. The problem with Kronk's New Groove is stemmed from the main issue. Kronk isn't protagonist material. Kronk has no need to have an arc because he doesn't have anything to need to change. Another thing is the plot is such a major step down from the first movie. I never really explained why the plot is so bad, besides the fact that he just wants a thumbs up, which, you're gonna drive the movie around him wanting a thumbs up? Really? In the first movie, the stakes are Kuzco dies or he loses all his power and the kingdom crumbles as Yzma abuses her power. What are the stakes in Kronk's New Groove? Kronk doesn't get validation. That's it. The stakes of the 2 movies are so disproportionate that the second movie wouldn't even make a good story in real life. I'm not gonna go tell people about the time I tried to get a goddamn thumbs up. That's a horrible story. Other problems in this movie include the jokes. They are just everywhere and there's no turning it off. There's no emotional core created because it's filled with slapstick humor, no satisfying jokes, and no redeeming qualities. I laughed 0 times. I paused this movie 8 times to go watch YouTube because I literally couldn't watch this in one sitting. This movie, quite literally, might have beaten Sinbad for the worst movie I have ever seen because nothing makes sense. This squirrel shouldn't have had a big role. The entire story should not revolve around a fucking thumbs up. Pacha's family has very little need to be in this movie. The story should not revolve around a thumbs up. This feels like if Disney made a Star Wars movie entirely off of fan service that no one actually asked for. The protagonist, Jar Jar Binks.
I speak.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
No, Mrs. Stay.
The antagonist, Anakin in episode 2 talking about sand.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
The love interest is Rose.
Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
The screenwriter is George Lucas, and the director is Michael Bay.
This has to be all grips on hand with this thing. It is not to move under the tail. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. All right, am I very clear? Yeah. Good.
Just make every possible wrong decision. Why would Disney make a sequel to a movie that had no need for a sequel, that didn't make that much money, and focuses on a character that benefited off of the fact that they were not in a prominent role? Every joke in this movie is recycled from the first. Every single joke sucks. This stupid goddamn dancing cheer shit that no one cares about goes on for too long. I don't care about any of this, Disney. Kronk isn't funny. You took a character that was beloved and killed him so fast. You didn't just run into an iceberg with the Titanic, you launched 60 nukes at it. Kronk is just disrespected with this so-called movie. There is not one thing they did right with this movie. These old shits who are useless are in this movie for too long. Kuzco shows up for fan service. Yzma survives a 30-mile fall as a cat and becomes a furry who apparently survived with no injuries because of fan service. This movie was made because direct-to-video sequels were still a thing. Why, Disney? Why would you make such a horrendous movie during a period where you were releasing dog shit stuff already? Why would anyone greenlight this idea? Why would anyone watch this and think it should be finished? I cannot, for the life of me, find one redeeming quality about this movie. Why, in God's name, would you make the major conflict be a fucking thumbs up? This is one of the worst movies I have ever had to struggle through. Every scene lasts too long. Every joke lands flat. This bitch with the giant nose and annoying accent calling him Cronky Poo, I want to kill her so many goddamn times. She will not stop being an annoying little shit. I do not care about anything that happened in this movie. Why would you make this movie just be a story about a character with zero flaws needing a goddamn thumbs up as the major conflict? This isn't working, Disney. This isn't working. None of this is working. Why the fuck did you think this was working? Thank you guys for watching. This movie is horrible. Do not ever watch this movie. My roommate recommended this movie saying that he loved it, so we're never friends again. I'll see you guys in the next video.